Hi everybody, Flash Transman back again with another episode of Suzerain. That's while it waits for the thing to load up. Right. Cup of tea next to me, see if I can avoid spilling this on my desk. I've had when I put drinks on my desk when I'm recording, I always end up spilling them. But I keep on doing it. Wins of Victim of Change. Yes, the last episode we failed to get the Constitution through by a long way, which is a crushing disappointment. But I'm not sure what we can do about that next. Invitation. I always get this horribly wrong as well. I've been invited to an exclusive preview of Alfred Kerbeck's new film, The Morning Shall Come. Though I wasn't much of a movie-going mood, it would have been unpresidential not to attend. With this massive budget, the Kerbeck's directorial cachet, this drama was set to be a milestone for Sordland's burgeoning film scene. Personally, I was just looking forward to spend some time with my family. It's a very hot and sunny day. Serge drove us to the old capital. The film was to be screened in the historic Cinema Anglais d'Eloy, the very first cinema in Sordland. Serge had maxed out the air conditioning to keep the Cadillac comfortable. I kept silence, though most of our ride on the H1 I couldn't get my mind off the results of the assembly vote. Frank fidgeted with his tie as he stared out the window. What about you? Since when do you care what's happening in my life? Yeah, what blimey. Don't talk to your father that way, he's been working so hard for this country. Ignore him and talk to Diana. Don't make me angry, Frank. Ignore him, yeah. That's probably half the problem, I've ignored him. Might be in a better mood than your brother. Nodded happily. What about you, Papa? I know you're sad, but failure helps us grow, right? Exactly. Giggled. From you. Everything's going to be wonderful from now on, isn't it, Monica? No more politics talk. Of course, let's focus on having a nice time in the movies. Monica folded her arms and drove on in silence. Serge rolled down the soundproof glass between us. Sir, we're about to enter Eloy. We'll be at the cinema in a few minutes. Thank you. Did I see many towers of Eloy rising over what was left of the old city walls? In the distance there were several planes flying towards the city. Take a closer eye, I saw there were military planes that looked like Arcadian designs. They were probably headed for our joint military base. Serge knocked on the glass and gestured forwards. We were right in the Mask of Eloy, at the historic Cinema Anglais, the Cinema of Angels, was right in front of us. Is this the place? Yeah. It was an old Baroque-style corner building with walls that looked like marble from a distance. There were exquisite ornaments on each side of every window. So he pulled a cart up to the entrance of the building, which was lit by vivid neon stripes in many colours. Come on, let's go. Serge opened the doors and we exited onto the red carpet. We were about to enter the building when a journalist managed to block the path. Mr. President, how are you handling the defeat of your constitutional reforms in the Assembly? I will respect the Assembly's decision. Thank you, Mr. President. Were you aware Tarko and Sol would be present at the proceedings? No, I had to find out from my driver. Before you could ask anything else, the guards ushered her inside the theatre. In contrast with the cinema's Baroque-style exterior, the inside was modern and sleek with bare walls painted in black, red and white. The film's cast and crew were already in the foyer with glasses of champagne in their hands. We approached the crowd and were welcomed by the producers and the event organisers. A man walked up to us with quick steps. Madam, Mr. President, it's so good to see you here. He gently bowed at Monica and shook her hands. It is an honour to meet you. I'm Alfred Kerbuck. New stage productions. Hunger with an entirely blooded cast. His first with President Carl. We might need to keep this open from previous conversations and previous ones. I've always been a mess of this one. Who? Yeah. Yeah, it could be nice to meet you. My producers told me you had expressed admiration for my work. That was nice of them, because I clearly haven't. Frank snorted and I glanced at me and he initially took a sip of his cola. Okay, it's very humbling to know that you've been watching and enjoying my movies. If you don't mind me asking, which one was your favourite? This one might be slightly different to my previous works. I love My Soldier's Dream because that was nominated for an award, so we might say that one. Oh really? Then you might enjoy this one too. I admit I didn't expect you to be such a cinephile. Frank looked me in the eye and struggled not to laugh. Why don't we take our seats? It's about to start. We entered the screening room. The lights dimmed and the film began. It was a period drama set in the 1870s about a soldier soldier who pursues a doom-romance with a widowed, bloodish farmer during the conquest of Bergia. As the credits rolled, I made an early exit to use the men's room. I was washing my hands when I heard an unmistakable voice behind me. So what do you think? Tarquin was leaning on his cane. He had the same fair appearance I'd noticed at the assembly meeting. Get up close, I could still sense the raw magnetism that kept him power for 20 years. Complete such a drivel, what about yourself? Complete such a drivel, what about yourself? Sentimental paddling for the enjoyment of the housewives only, and for a period piece of script contained far too many anachronisms. Undoubtedly. What the hell were you doing at the assembly, vote, Mr. Sell? And small talk while we were at the assembly vote. I don't see how I can win this conversation. So I see you're still around. You're still around. What were you doing at the assembly? My country was about to make a first decision. I couldn't simply sit by. It's not your country anymore. It's not your country anymore. No. There was a glint in his eye. That sounds... You won't get it. Pesky. That sounds like Scooby-Doo. If it wasn't for you pesky kids. Yeah. Why did you block my reforms? A true President Rayne will step down. That's going to get thrown back at me. I will not let you and your bleeding heart idiot Rick to tarnish my precious constitution. His anxious to move forward. You tarnished it enough for both. You tarnished it enough for both of us already. You tarnished it enough for both of us already. Ha! Some bar landed on my. So you, Anthony Rayne, as if you, Anthony, were above it. If you are capable of remaining president without getting your hands dirty. I'm no saint, but I'm trying to act for the good of the country. You'll find out soon enough how the country pays you for your goodness. Sit past me out the door. Oh. I don't know which I could have. I wonder if you're in a dictatorial playthrough, you can handle that differently. Like have them arrested or something. I don't know. I still don't know how people are managed to do authoritarian playthroughs. Unless the only time I could see it was when the judge right at the start came in and asked us, "Will help me set up an emergency constitution." That's the only way I could see you could do it. Other than that, I don't know. Self-security stuff from my necklace outside the washroom, forming a buffer against large crowds that I'd gathered. That's Tarquin solid. Somebody screaming, his guards closed around him, and mine around me. By the time the cast aside, I was back in my car with my family, and solid luck was long gone. So what the newspapers say. Kerbuck screening. Seen together. New law on Soldiers Wrong was vetoed. Yep. Rayne had no prior knowledge of Sol's assembly appearance. Oh, hang on, did I miss one there? Yeah, nothing there. Lockhaven Times. Washroom Summer. What were Rayne and Sol hiding? Okay, fine, nothing to see there. We've got two things to look at. Now, what are they going to be? You are... Oh, that's that one. Then this one is dinner with the family. Let's do this one first. I arrived home from work, hung my jacket up and put my briefcase in the hall. I paused, awaiting my usual greeting from my wife and daughter. Diana was out at one of the after-school art classes. I remember, but where was Monica? From the living room I heard a muffled sob. I identified Monica sitting on the sofa. I let in her hands and looked despair on her face. Darling, what's wrong? What is it? Who is it from? Sit down next to Monica. Brief rested her hands on my shoulder, then handed me the letter. It's from the Department of Education. Fancy University exam results are in. He failed, didn't he? Just read the letter. I looked at the page. Frank's name and address. The score was written 435 out of a total of 1,000. At the bottom of the letter showed the word failed stamped in red. All those years of effort, all those private lessons all down the drain. Does he know the results yet? He brought it upon himself. You're right, he did. It isn't just about Frank, you know. He failed. He failed will reflect badly on you, on us. Blimey. Don't understand. Frank's a smart boy. Why did he sabotage himself like this? I heard a key turning in the front door. Frank stomped in and was about to go upstairs when he noticed us both in the living room. Mom, Dad, what's going on? Wait for Monica to start the conversation. Your exam results are out today. Frank sat down. Monica handed him a letter. He started reading it. Oh, yeah. Your function disappointed the family, Frank. That's a bit harsh. What have you to say? I need a moment. He went to the kitchen, washed his face until he came back. I never thought this would happen. I'm so sorry. How could you let us down like this? You made you cry with your actions. It's not the end of the world. Yeah. Right, you should have taken a break from running the country. You'll lose a son. Be okay. You should really have studied harder, Frank. I know. So what am I supposed to do now? Well, there's always military school. Well, I always go with that one. You'll go to military school, of course. It's the only place that will have you. Until there isn't anything you can do. If Alfonso could get his dim-wit son into King's University, I'm sure Halsell State would have room for a bright boy like Frank. I don't know. I want to go down this route, but I've done that 2 previous runs. Yeah, I always do. I always pay to come to university. Yeah, we're doing it if he's going to go to military school. Halsell State would be amazing. A bunch of friends are going there. I could still come home to do my laundry. Oh, I don't know. Wait, you could also study abroad. No, I won't influence your life. You've got to live with what you've done. Yeah, I understand principles are important, but Anton, which is more important, your principles or your son's future? My son's future, and I believe that you will make the right choice. You're going to military school. Alright, Dad, says me right for not studying. Frank ran upstairs to his room. I'll go upstairs after. Leave him be in his time. I suppose I need some time as well. Okay. That goes against my, because I don't know, against my own thing. I've always done it based on that. I'd try and get my lad into university while I sent to the army, but let's do something different. Court strikes down there, Civil versus Sordland. Yeah, it's just the same. Again, this comes up, but I don't know how. Every playthrough we've had, the Urson versus Sordland against constitutional rights for bloody citizens, has always come up. Yeah, I've absolutely no clue what we can do about it. Because one of the things that happens every playthrough I've done, yeah, it's just to be happening. Well, what can I do to affect this? I just don't know. Again, I just don't know what we can do about it. I wonder if this is I don't know. I just don't know what we can do about that, because it just seems to happen. And you see what I'm saying? Well, I don't know what we can do. Ash University, yep. Okay, we'll come to that soon. Justice failed once again. Yeah, I wonder if we'd have got the constitutional changes through, we could have affected this in a different way. I wonder if the only way we can affect the Suzerain versus Sordland is by getting the constitution through and therefore weakening the Supreme Court. I don't know. Again, it's one of the things you go, well, there's nothing I can do, so I'm going to ignore it. Read. Dismiss the concurrence of the Ministry of Justice citing the treatment of British people had been equal below the law before the law. Further passages were made criticising the words of the Vice Minister of Justice. British constitution won't be in question for some time. This is one of them things you go, well, let's do this one first. Let's do this one. Right, the doors to the White Room, like everything else in Marine Palace's main nerve centre, were painted white. I took a deep breath before pushing them open. Time for yet another meeting. At this time it was people who liked me. Attendants rose up from their seats. Mr. President nodded. He and Listen sat down while David remained standing. Now that you're here, let's talk about diplomatic strategy. David cleared his throat. Mr. President, if I may, I would like to provide you with a short overview of where we are right now. Nod. Although we did not make a trade deal with Welland, we succeeded in making one with Magnolia, which means that we have increased our presence in the region. These deals were important pieces of leverage and significant first steps into the global arena. We must now look towards the future. Go on. David sat down, pulled a few papers and started going through them as he kept talking. While Magnolia were practice ones, we must begin to improve our relations with greater nations. We need to elevate our international standing, especially with the threat of Lumber looming. Asif cleared his throat. Thanks to your wise investment, Sordland's army is well on its way to becoming a force to be reckoned with. Whether it be Lumber we can handle outside threats just fine. We don't need to beg for help from anyone. You've changed your opinion. But be friendly won't hurt, right? I agree, there's nothing to be lost by making alliances. A military perspective is important, but these deals are about more than just gaining allies. We need to consider the benefits to our economy such deals will provide, especially when we're still struggling to end the recession. David took a seat and brought out 2 stacks of documents. At the end of our term, I have a comprehensive trade deal plan laid out. At the start of our term, sorry. Following the visit to Magnolia, we were to pursue potential trade deals with 2 great nations. Vaxland is one of them, or at least was. Unfortunately, a trade deal no longer seems possible. In Vaxland's case, given their country's territorial ambitions and alliance with Magnolia, that was rather a slap in the face. Now, those commies won't be able to invade Magnolia without facing the might of the Sordland forces. It will make them think twice. True, but as a result, we won't be able to conduct a trade deal, let alone proceed with any diplomatic missions at the moment. Fortunately, so much needless dispute over such a small island. I'm afraid it might get much worse in the future. As it stands right now, any kind of deal with Vaxland is simply out of the question. Moving on to Lesbia. Our southern neighbour is one of the wealthiest countries east of Macopia. A trade deal with them would be very beneficial, not just for our economy, but also our regional and international presence. Not to mention they are in the Arcasian sphere. A trade deal with Lesbia could open many doors for us. True, a country as influential as Lesbia could elevate our economy. That is it for an overview. As for actual contents of the trade deal, Lucien pulled out a small notebook and flipped through the pages until he landed on the right one. Look at the stats here. We now have a small tungsten surplus, which makes excellent resource for trade. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I need to know your decision before we can proceed. What shall we do? Yeah, begin negotiations. Excellent news. I will begin at once. That was all I have today. Thank you for coming. Thank you, gentlemen. Yeah, we've got to watch him because he clearly thinks we don't need any help. So we need to watch him. But I think we need help just to ward Rumberg off coming after us. Isolated polio cases seen in Bergia. Polio case explodes in Bergia. Okay. Yeah, fine. Nothing to see there. What else will I read? Report showed Sully's been steadily slipping against Arcasian Lyra. Okay, we've got budget to spec. Hopefully, we can do something about that. Every recession hits workers. Yeah, fine. We know that's a problem. The railway's killing us. New school completed. You're fine. Alright, let's get to this one. Morning hastened around the city diet as the sun dawned on the day of dissension, the holiest day of New Year religion. It celebrated the first message received from God by St. Das and his 30 disciples. As per tradition, the celebration was held inside the arch sanctuary of Dastra Unity, close to the public eye. This, however, for the first time, is going to be televised. That was Lucian's idea. He saw it as granting the people a rare glimpse of the grand ceremony, showing how seriously their president took the whole event. It would ease tensions as that lingered in the region. As we arrived at the largest cathedral in Sordland, a huge crowd gathered around our convoy as we pulled into the entrance. This will work out well, trust me, sir. Of course, that's only if the president completely correctly. Please don't forget the order. Right, I've made a mess of this before, so I wrote it down once, but I don't know how I wrote it down. Hang on. I'm reaching up onto my shelves above my desk in my office. And see, if I did write it down, 'cause I've done this before. And and I've done it twice. Once I made a complete dog's dinner of it, even though I photoed it. I'm trying to look for my notebook as to where I wrote it down. Nope, I've got it written down. I'll write it down, so I'll take a picture. It'd be quick if I take a photograph of it. I can't believe I'm doing this. Like I've run it. I'm reaching above my desk. Right, we shall take pictures, because believe me, I have made a mess of this before. So let's just make sure that's sorted out. Okay, so let's go. Right, so we go. First, we need to grasp the holy scepter with your left hand, then touch the altar with your right hand. Kneel before the archbishop and wait for it to put it on your shoulder. Then touch your sword with your hand you touch the altar with, and hand the scepter over to the priest and receive the sword before passing it to a disciple. Pretty straightforward, yeah, really, you reckon? Right, okay. So I am, believe me, at this moment in time, I'm taking a picture of my screen with my phone, so I can't make a mess of it, because believe me, I've made a mess of it before. Okay, right, hopefully I can read that. Right, let's go. Okay, I didn't understand a word you just said. I love little things like that. Just do the best to remember it. We can't lose our religious base over this. You will have to go first. I will come inside later and we'll meet up after your party's done. Good luck, sir. Exit the car. Exit the car, and I was greeted by a chorus of cheers and camouflages. I waved to the people as I made my way to the grand gates. The arch sanctuary was a sight to see. It was a towering visage. It cast a shadow over a large portion of the city. I had to crane my neck to see the narrow spires at the top. Just standing next to it made me feel awe and dread in equal measure. As I reached the gates, I spotted my welcome committee. The archpriest and his disciples waited for my arrival. As at my approach, they all bowed their heads in respect. The archbishop gave me an infectious smile as he straightened his back up. Tall and handsome, in his mid-50s, he was one of the youngest and most popular archpriests in history. Some of his more avid followers even likened him to St. Dast. He's not young. Mr. President, praise God, it is a blessing to see you on our most big holy day again. Welcome, welcome. I'm not being, yeah. Christ cheered loud. The archpriest turned and raised his hand, and everyone immediately fell silent. Oh, great people of Sordland, once again we are gathered here for the honour of the day of dissension. I am incredibly happy to be sharing this moment with you, as well as every blood and sword, young, old and young, tuning in their television to watch a holy commemoration. Along with the leader of our great nation, I say, let the holy day begin. Stay far from evil, O sons and daughters, for evil hides itself under many disguises. Disguises such as blasphemy, apostasy, and even alcohol. Be good, my children. Praise God, praise Sordland. He smiled beatifically as the crowd burst into rapturous applause. After it subsided, he turned to me. Shall we move in for your confession? Sure, let's get this over with. Most excellent. He led me through the main war hall, which had a stratospheric ceiling nearest icons lining the walls. We walked up the creaking staircase to the top floor and finally arrived in front of a confession chamber. Right this way. He gestured towards a dark room. The room smelt of old mahogany and scented candles. The archpriest proceeded to light each and every one of the candles, one for each virtue and vice. I'll be right with you. He left the room. A moment later, I had the sound of a sliding window right next to me. He spoke with a soft voice. I'm assuming this is like a Catholic confession. I grew up with the Church of England when I was tiny, so I've never kind of experienced the whole confession thing, but that's what it sounds like anyway. Anton Rayne, speak or confess now before one God, and he may repent your sins on the holy day of dissension. I confess I'm not sure what I'm doing for Sordland is enough. Yeah, let's do that one. That's nice and safe. You carry a heavy burden on your shoulders. What you have confessed is not a sin, but you may share the burden with me if you like. I'm trying to reform the country, but I don't know if the country is ready for it yet. Reformation is one of the tenets of unity, yet it must come slowly but surely. Anything else you'd like to confess? Thank you, that's all for today. Thank you for sharing. I'm telling you nothing, mate. You are now forgiven before God, Anthony. May you never sin again. The sliding window closed and the Archbishop entered the confession chamber. For the confession to end, you must extinguish your candles representing each one of your vices and virtues. With this, once the burning sins connected to you are now smoke, then nothing. Extinguish your candles. One by one, extinguish your candles. Well done, Mr. President. Let's move to my quarters before the ceremony. He led me through the 1,000-year-old corridors to his office. The smell of dust and old tomes was in the air, along with the scent of burning incense being prepared for the ceremony. Well then, please have a seat. The wooden chair next to me looked like it might have turned to dust at a single touch. I sat down gingerly. It was surprisingly sturdy. Are you ready for the ceremony? Yes, let's get on with it. Patience is a virtue, Mr. President. He leaned back in his chair comfortably. I wanted to give you something, a gift to celebrate this special day. He pulled out a large rectangular box with his desk drawer. The box was lined with gold and exquisite gemstones. A beautiful sight, isn't it? I opened the box and showed me what was inside. It was a dagger. Handle looked like it made from pure gold, and handed a large gem on the end. On the blade, the words were inscribed "Vet turn sister, victory is close." On the other side, another set of words, "King Edmund." The dagger belonged to King Edmund. It is a very important artifact in the Kingdom of Sordland era. It is now yours, Mr. President. Thank you. It is an honour. Think of the past and think of who you are. Traditions are what brought us to this point. Now then, it should be about the right time. There's a random van parked outside me. I was trying to work out where he is. I live in a estate that it's like a 1930s estate, and it's like a rabbit warren. If you don't know where you're going, it's very, very easy to get lost. And clearly there's a delivery driver got completely lost. Anyway, a couple of knocks were heard on the door, and the boy came in. He bowed before the priest and me, before letting us know the ceremony was ready to begin. We made our way downstairs, where the ceremony was already in progress. The choir sang angelically as the archpriest took his position before the altar. When they finished the hymn, an expectant silence fell over the room. It was time for my part. I started to walk and bowed, approached the altar. Right. I'm assuming that it doesn't feel like it's important, but I suppose if you're thinking of not losing the next election, you need to keep the religious lot in order. So you grab the holy scepter with your left hand and then touch the altar with your right. Okay. So grab the scepter left hand, touch the altar with my right. Okay. Then what do? Kneel before the archpriest and wait for him to put the sword on your shoulder. Kneel before the archpriest. Scepter and I knelt before the priest. The archbishop laid the sword on my shoulder. Right, now what do? Then touch the sword with your hand you touch the altar with. So I touched the altar with my right hand. So touch the altar with your right hand. Touch the sword with your right hand. Hand the scepter over to the archpriest and receive the sword before passing it to self. So I've got to hand the scepter to the priest, hand the scepter to the archpriest. Archpriest handed me the sword, pass the sword before passing it to a disciple. Pass the sword to a disciple. I got up, proceeded to my designated spot next to Lucy, and leaned over and whispered in my ear. Don't put my phone down. I took my portrait picture with her. Compared to last year, that went surprisingly well, sir. What happened last year? The archpriest met my eyes and he nodded very slightly. The ceremony went on for another hour and a half. Finally, the noon bells chimed, and marking the end of the cathedral service. We left the cathedral and to greet the waiting crowd. As I stepped inside, I heard everyone cheering and chanting my name. Lucian's gambit seemed to have been a success. We waved proudly for a minute or two. See, sir, I told you it would work. It only worked, Lucian, because I took a picture of your instructions with my phone, mate. We entered the cars and drove back to our suites in Dyer. That is taking so long to finish. Nothing I did see up here. Nope. That's telling us where to go with a news article. Look, the Irving Times. Yep, that go surprisingly well. Didn't get it. First of all, I didn't get it wrong. Even though I took a picture, I still managed to get the damn thing wrong. Cabinet meeting of the results of the vote. Lucian stood upright, holding a large folder of files on his arm. He bowed his head in acknowledgement. He looked exhausted. The cabinet has gathered in the right room, sir. The Vice President will be able to take session soon. We can go in whenever you're ready. Anything you want to say before we go in? No, sir. Just keep your call with the cabinet. I believe concerns will be raised in the meeting. What are you saying? Should I be expecting something? No, sir. I don't believe there's anything we didn't expect. However, our failure of the reforms has a huge impact on public opinion. The party is quite discontent about the whole situation. They believe your presidency has destroyed the USP's prestige. Maybe winning the game. If you're that mentality, maybe USP losing the next election is also a victory, because maybe the USP has been in power for far too long. Anyway, we need their trust to have something. We have to do something to prove the capabilities. They don't even have the guts to face me. If the part doesn't fall in line, must consider radical changes. Yeah, let's go extreme. So radical change towards the end of our term is not advice. So we could talk about these. We could talk about these in the meeting. He gestured at the front, at the door, with files in hand. He held. I want to see radical changes he could do, because I've never been able to come across anything that's radical, like i.e. leaving USP and crossing the floor to join the FPCPJXYZ, whatever they're called, Victor's lot. I think we should go, Mr. Vice President must have started the session already. Let's go in. We entered the room. Peter was speaking to cabinet members who were already seated on the table. As soon as he announced me, they all stood up. Saying nothing, and watched the room. I looked around at my cabinet members who were staring at me and waiting for me to speak. Peter stood right next to my seat in the middle. He turned to me and gave a wave of his hand. And here's our president. He held that chair for me to sit down and smiled. Please. I sat down. Everybody immediately took their seats. No, because he's a liability. So I'm going. What's on the agenda? What's on our agenda? We'll be discussing our current status of planning the remainder of our term. Peter walked to his seat but didn't sit down. He took a look at the ministers. Now that Mr. President is here, we can begin the meeting. I know that some of you have had your concerns about our style of governance so far. There will be time to speak about these in today's meeting. But I must also thank you for your hard work so far. We are very lucky to have a team like this. All of you have been invaluable to this administration. Having said that, we've now reached a critical point of our term. We are nearing the end. We have worked long and hard, but we couldn't reform the Soldiers' Constitution. Our organisation was flawed, our party was not united, the very parliament we control has denied us the reforms. Lisa and I have begun investigating who let us down at the vote when we needed them the most. Growing and considering the party didn't back us up. Casero Cabinet and the National Front MPs didn't like the proposal and voted against it. I could have told you that. That's not a massive surprise, mate. He paused and looked around the room. But the past is past, we must look forward to the future. We are investigating and analysing our faults and we're taking measures accordingly. I still just waffle. There's nothing. That's completely nothing we could have worked out ourselves. I just think that I don't know what we can do. Our party still remains divided. In order to look to the future, we may need to make some changes. On the other hand, the opposition is exploiting our failure to reform. The latest poll shows a steep increase in the opposition support. So let's start the meeting with a brief look at some reports. He fumbled with a stack of papers in front of him. With the latest developments, we have seen an enormous decrease in our popularity. The public opinion about our party is an all-time low. Hang on. My second monitor decided to do strange things. There we go. Come on. There you go. Sorry. We took a small piece of paper from the stack and inspected it. A major concern of the people is the state of our economy. We are slowly slipping into a depression. Again, having done this playthrough, I don't think we can avoid this. I think this is going to happen. Whatever I do, I just don't think we can avoid the depression. I think it's one of the things of the game. Whatever you do, it happens, irrespective of what you achieve. You know, so I've noticed that some things happen regardless of whatever you do. They seem to happen. But anyway, yep, we'll have dire consequences. We mustn't lose hope and give it our best. Sordland users more than ever. Peter turned to me. I'll give the word to the president now. All right, let's start the meeting. Everyone's focused on me. And you focus on some of my plans forward. Focus on change. It's time to change focus. It's time to focus on changing our party as a whole. I will add a new vision to our manifesto. Public opinion is considering we must focus on campaigning for the next election already. The state of the economy is very concerning. It must be our focus to achieve quick economic development. Simon nodded in agreement. We can't get elected if we don't improve the economy. We can't get elected if we don't improve the economy. Yeah. Almost everyone seemed to agree. Almost. He's not. If there are no comments, let me move on with the meeting. Next, I want to hear brief reports from the ex-ministry. Peter Jess Simon immediately stood up. Mr. President, dear colleagues, Mr. President was pretty on point with this summary of the current economic status. We've already used the word depression. He couldn't have been more correct. The GDP shrunk by 15% last year. The downward trend has broken our economy over the last years. If we cannot contain this in time, we'll end our term in the truest sense of the word in a depression again. I don't think we can stop this. I think it's a game mechanic that happens anyway, which happened to me the past couple of times. Thanks to a balanced budget, we are now eyeing a manageable increase in our national debt by the end of the term, if the economic projections hold up along the current trend, of course. On the other hand, unemployment has seen no positive change, and there have been an increase in joblessness, now 26%. We have lost control of the situation. We have millions of people. We cause millions of people to lose their jobs. He paused for a moment. Is there more to it? No, I don't want to get into much detail right now, but after the failure to open our first infrastructure project was costly, fortunately we expect to have finished in the next months. Apart from that, I'll finish with an update of our latest project. The manager reported that everything's going well and very fast in the Sordland agricultural zone. I'll keep it brief for the sake of our meeting and then report on that note. Good, let's move on to the next report. Gus stood up. I'll keep it very brief, Mr. President. Our farmers are still suffering. Our ministry did its best by giving out subsidies to local farmers, but agricultural production remains the same. We've only recorded some developments in the Agnang region, but our farmers in Galsand and Berger are still suffering. That will be all from me. Good, let's get to the next report. Mr. President, as state facilities require immediate attention, we are experiencing long lines in front of hospitals everywhere. We also currently investigating some reports of a polio outbreak around a village called Haymere. I believe we can get more detail in our policy meeting. These reports keep getting shorter. As I've stood up, Mr. President, are very important regarding our situation in Rumberg. The investigation showed that Rumberg was in fact weaponising rebels against our state. We have learned that they have been aiding bloody rebels in Welland too. Our military must stand ready for a possible attack coming from Rumberg. We have gathered intelligence regarding their military research and production. They are building a massive army. We urgently need to increase our military production. We cannot let them threaten us like this. Let's make this room. At least we have to use whatever we have to its limits. So of course, David stood up. Mr. President, Parla has agreed to begin deal negotiations. We'll be moving on with that very soon. Our relations with Magnolia have greatly improved. Our ministries have scheduled many joint projects together. The region is very unstable. With incidents of Bloomberg and well and Hedgeland, we must be very cautious. We can talk in more detail at our foreign policy meeting. Your concerns have been heard. Kyle stood up next. Our ministry is working day and night to improve the education system, increasing accessibility. We have since built 100 new schools and improved accessibility. We have accomplished a lot with our new curriculum. Our reforms have greatly improved output and as a society. Leah stood up. Mr. President, there's a report from our intelligence officers. We've disrupted an illegal arms deal that was taking place inside our borders. There seems to be several anti-government groups organising large-scale attacks. We might need to implement some new measures soon. We will provide you with more detailed report at a later date. I don't trust do not trust her at all. One last thing, I'd like to transfer the gendarmerie under the Minister of Interior to improve internal security efforts. I haven't heard of this before. I don't see RSF accepting this. He might have to agree with Mr. President if Sordland tells him to. The Minister of the Defence shouldn't be meddling with internal affairs through the gendarmerie. We have several incidents that they were too violent too quickly, and it all stands for military officers being given reckless orders at times. I did say I don't trust her. I'm not sure how this would help. I can ensure better security structure with cohesion and successful operations. Will you transfer the gendarmerie to the interior in the future? I can't make that promise. He sits in the room, so why is he not saying something? Do you have anything to share, Miss Morgner? Okay, not this moment, President. You're already well aware of what's going on. I will update you on our next steps in the judiciary of the meeting. I understand. And I took a seat, and I believe that is everything. Everyone picked up and left the room. I went to my office. Carl Gresser was waiting for me by the door. Mr. President, can I have a moment of your time? I have something to discuss. Of course, let's go inside the office. We went to the office, went up to my desk and sat behind my chair. Have a seat. Thank you, sir, but I'm fine. It won't take long. The anti-corruption police have compiled a report regarding active investigations. We have been watching the Olgar closely, just as you asked, and found a very complex web of connections. There are missing links in our investigation, but the Olgar seems to be involved in huge cases of corruption and lobbying. Most of the connections linked to Chief Justice Hawker, despite none of the members of the Assembly having direct ties with him. It seems to be a complex web of connections that is proving very difficult to track. We also have another suspicion. We are finding us to believe that the ongoing cooperation between the Young Sword organisation and the Old Guard. While this is huge, it's very difficult to create a solid case at the moment. With the justices of the court have immunity before the law, I don't see how we can take them down legally. Well, do it illegally then, you know. Because there's part of me saying that if again, I suppose, the decision I made earlier stops from doing that, I'd like the option to do it illegally. If we try to make a case, we can arrest most of their connections in the Assembly. However, there's probably more to this than we imagined. Proceed with the case. As long as we hurt them, the court doesn't matter. Yes, sir. I'll give you an update soon. I'll send you the detailed reports of our previous findings. Thank you for your time. I'll be waiting. He bowed his head and left the office. That's 2.5 years have gone by fast. So we're... Is it 4 year... Are we on a... I can't remember if it's a 4-year term. So we are approaching the business end of the... We're approaching the business end of our time in government. Anti-government protest. Yeah, whatever. Don't care. Whistleblower agent report. revealed intelligence secret nuclear weapons program up in Mumbai intelligence has verified the details relayed about a heavy water facility in the north of the kingdom, a ballistic missile test site. The agent will provide security under the protection program, but given resources to provide transfer further intelligence to our units. So you've got nukes basically. Address to the nation speech. Lisa and I walked into the office of Moonpass to make my address to the nation speech. It was unusually crowded today. Cameras, lights and microphones were set in place and a crew was standing by, ready to start filming. Are you ready, sir? I'm always ready. Good, I think the crew's ready. As soon as you take your seat, we can go live. I took my seat and rearranged my notes on the desk as a crew member powdered my face with a cotton puff. After everybody was ready, the director gave the sign to start filming. I looked directly into the camera. My fellow swords, I saw to the election on the winds of change that was desperately sought and called for by the people of Sordland, by you, the people of Sordland. I'd like to speak about the events of the past months and the great holographic to give the words freedom, fairness and hope. What I've got to be careful, because what I'm basically saying is the USPFL will do it, so I'm just going to push people to go towards Richter. Yes, go. Let's do. From the moment I swore, and I've done nothing but fight to achieve this. You demand. I took the office with a plan to dismantle an ancient government structure and replace it with one that needs modern country face it. However, due to significant control, my plans are thwarted. That is basic saying go and vote for the US, go and vote for Richter and the opposition. That is, my plans were thwarted. If some members had their way, the Tarquin constitution would last until the end of time. And they're so spiteful acts against me, putting their own petness before these of this country. They stubbornly clung on to Sordland's past, knowing it would cost the country's future, and they're stuck to took down my forms without the help of Sol himself. I don't know what to do here. I don't see how that'll help. I really don't, because yeah, let's just. I tell you this: I'm not done fighting for you. They're defeating people, then they will never defeat. I'm not done fighting for you. Historians shall look upon this as a minor hurdle in Sordland's path to greatness. It's time to put the setback behind us. Yeah. The future lies in the democratic movement of the West. Ooh, that's a new one. I remember that one. We must take lessons from Ocasia's democracy. Without some support, there is no end to what we can achieve. The force of law on our side, there's no end to what we can achieve. Oh dear me. Let's go with that one. Let's go deep breaths. Lucian shooed a fly away from my forehead. We shall start by focusing on the economy. With the form off the table, I shall keep following through my promise to improve Sordland's military. Thank you for standing by me, your president, both good times and bad. Yep. I'll salute you with all respect. The director, final cut said the camera stopped when my speech was finished. So that went down. It didn't. We'll continue on to the next turn. Revelations. Ooh, what we're going to reveal. What are we going to reveal? I tried to play this without giving too many spoilers away if it's the first time you've watched one Suzerain playthrough with me, but it's a bit difficult sometimes because you know what's coming to a fair degree. Geopolitics. Queen Beatrice demands reparations. Yep, she's just looking for reason to go to war with us. Hundreds are killed in Hedgeland. Oh, that's not looking good. That's not looking good at all. A massive miscommunication between the Minister of the Interior and John resulted in a failed raid in Vessord. Minister of Defence and Interior both blame each other. Right. This is another one that always happens However, I wonder, basically, if I'd have given the gendarmerie to Lilius Graf, whether that wouldn't have happened. Again, I just wonder if that would have happened. However, the reason I don't trust her, I do not trust her in the slightest, so I do not want to give her even more power in terms of police, soldiers, whatever. I just don't want to give her more power. I don't trust her, and I don't trust him either. And yeah, the rest of them are just kind of like, these two are it's the her and him. You know, I thought we had him on the side. Well, anyway, right. This conversation, departure of President Son from home. I thought it was going to be a different conversation. It was a cloudy, rainy day in Holsword. Gloomily echoed my own feelings. My concentration has been defeated. I was back to square one. I couldn't spend the day moping. However, Frank was finally about to leave home. My son piled last of his bags next to the door. A surgeon assistant driver was waiting outside next to the car. Did you pack everything? Don't forget to give me a call immediately after you arrive. Well, I will. I think I'm all packed. Monica helped him with his backpack while Serge started carrying the luggage to the car. I made you sack lunch. I'll get it from the kitchen. She dashed down the hall. Frank and I turned to face each other in the hallway, so I guess this is it. I hope they'll teach you how to be a better shot than me. That won't be hard. I remember our one hunting trip. Shifted his weight nervously. I haven't forgotten what you told me about your university years. I hope the army gives me a chance to prove myself the way you did. If you're a jerk, I hope that chance never comes. Don't model your life on mine. Frank smiled. Alright, Dad. At that moment down, I rushed to the door. Frank, I'm going to miss you. I miss you too. Don't forget, you've got to give Mum and Dad an extra hard time. They're both of us now. Daniela nodded. Okay. Frank picked up his sister, gave her a big hug, appeared in the doorway, holding a paper bag. I cut off the crust off your sandwich just well, like you used to like it. I'm not kidding anymore, Mum. I can't be a mother. Oh, can't I be a mother? Pretendo, Frank. She embraced him with tears in her eyes. Frank looked as if he was quiet as well. I caught her glaring at me over her shoulder. I hoped someday she would understand why I decided to send him away. Serge approached. Sir Frank managed to catch the next bus to the border to get to Military Academy before roll call. We'll have to leave now to make it. Time to go, Frank. Frank turned around, took one last look at me. Make me proud. No, I did before I entered into the car. It's difficult to see them go up and leave, isn't it? It's fine to find his own way. He will. We all will. We all did, after all. Military education changes a man, even if he never sees combat. I think it will be a liberating experience for him. It's never easy for boys to live in the shadow of their fathers, and it must be even harder when one's father is Anton Rayne. A great man like you casts a very long shadow. Well said. He nodded and looked at his watch. Time to go. Frank waved his hands as he entered the car. The engine started and they were on their way. Monica stood next to me as they drove away. Her eyes were teary. There he goes. Feels very different. She put her head on my shoulder. We still have each other. She turned to me, kissed me on the cheek, and put her head on my shoulder again. With the defeat of your films, I hope we will be all right. We watched for a few more minutes, even after the car was no longer in sight. I sighed and closed the door. Right, I think I'm going to leave it just there because we've got a lot of stuff to look at. Yeah, I'll just leave it just there. It seems about the right place to leave it. Thanks very much for watching. Bit of an awkward one today. It's kind of we're getting to the business end of the game. We've got a couple of big events coming, but the next big event I think is going to be redevelopment reports. It's still not coming up. Is what happened up here. That is an event that comes through, or maybe not. It's difficult because it's happened in a different order. Basically, the passage gendarmerie from Mr. Potato Head. Normally, you get the event, that disaster up there. You normally get an event to transfer the power from him to her. In the event we saw up there, however, it's coming that meeting beforehand. But anyway, we get to business end. We've got Lesbia trade negotiations coming up, and that is going to lead to them wanting us to join NATO with Arcasia, and then we've got to make a decision whether we do that and risk alienating old Mr. Potato Head over here, or if we don't, there's a very good chance there's going to be a NATO, there's going to be a big world conference, and we've got to be very careful there, because we get into the business and we get to the risky part of the game now. Yeah, 2 previous run-throughs, one of them I've ended up at war with Lundberg, which didn't go well. But anyway, I try not to give too many spoilers. But anyway, thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks very much. Bye.